Good morning. You're now listening to Kingston Community Radio, airing on FM 92.5 and AM 920 WGHQ, Kingston, New York. This programming is brought to you by our listeners and corporate underwriters who are interested in presenting local community radio. The opinions expressed on this program do not represent those of Pamel Broadcasting or Kingston Community Radio. Listeners are encouraged to send in $10 per month to help bring this program to you. Mail your contributions to Kingston Community Radio, Post Office Box 4364, Kingston, New York 12402. For more information or to donate online, visit our website at mykcr.org. And good morning, this is Dan Gatis, and bringing you into a super Wednesday. It's January 26th and 9 degrees. It's pretty much a single digit right now, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Kids dream big. Protect your child's dreams by keeping them healthy. If your son or daughter is age 11 or 12, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help prevent HPV cancers later. Learn more at cancer.org/dreambig.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America invites you to take steps for cures at a walk near you. Support the 1.6 million Americans living with these diseases. Get started at cctakesteps.org.
My mother was very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign and she wasn't even really sure where she was at.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Nearly 250,000 men and women in the U.S. will be diagnosed with breast cancer this year.
Breast cancer is unacceptable.
Visit Komen.org/unacceptable.
Hi, this is Shirley Stabe from Kingston, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
Okay, and you're here with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM. And today's weather for the rest of the week here now, sunny, with a high of 24 today. Bitterly cold tonight, almost to 0. There's a low of 2, probably. And Thursday, partly cloudy with a high of 28. And Thursday night, cloudy, a few flurries or snow showers possible overnight on Thursday. And then Friday, cloudy with a few flurries or snow showers possible with a high of 32. Watching a potential winter storm starting Friday night, and we're on the lookout for which way it's going to go. Cloudy skies with a few snow showers later at night, and a possibility of snow is about 30%. And today is a super Wednesday. And of course, we've got some fabulous supervisors and mayors around. Greg Shorvis, Bill McKenna, Billy Murphy, that's what we're going to start out with. And good morning, gentlemen.
Thank you, Dan Gatis, and good morning, listeners and viewers. You are tuned in to the Wednesday edition of the Kingston Community Radio Talk Radio Show. And we would love to hear from you. 331-9255 is our call-in number. We are broadcasting live from our studios here at 16 Lucas Avenue in Kingston, New York. And with me here in the studio, who hasn't been for some time, Supervisor Bill McKenna from Woodstock. Also Mayor Murphy from Sorgeties, Village of Sorgeties. And a person who hasn't been with us for, almost a year?
Yes!
In the control tower
and
is
we're
Dan
having
Gatis.
a blast. We're having a blast. It's so good to see you guys.
Well, it's
really
so good to see you.
Really miss you, but it's great to see you, Bill, Greg. Fred's coming in too.
Bill squared. Right.
Bill squared.
When you had said that you had looked, and the last time you were on,
it was March 31st.
March 31st.
Yeah, because I date my my cheat sheets. My announcement. It
was one of the days of our vaccinations. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Also would have been my mother's 96th birthday.
Oh, wow. So now I see, did I see a post yesterday? They're going to be doing a couple of vaccine clinics up in Sorgeties, the county, I think, in the next month or so.
I believe so. Yeah, I don't have the
dates yet. I think it just came out yesterday.
I didn't.
For boosters or vaccines?
It wasn't clear. I just saw a quick blurb. I don't know if it was an email, and You know, these days you look at something and all of a sudden you're disrupted and you don't get back to it.
Yeah. Well, you know, you just get overwhelmed also too with the amount of emails and the amount of communications on a daily basis. And
For sure.
I was actually in the process of flying back from down south yesterday, so that's why I didn't catch that stuff.
I thought you were in Florida. I got your email that you were out of the office. So I sent you an
You
email.
know, I went to our national, which was in Savannah this year.
The National Grass Convention.
Yeah,
I
I knew what he was talking about.
We know what
The national.
We know what that means.
And then from there, decided to go to Florida for 4 or 5 days.
Nice.
Yeah. Mornings were chilly. It was about down around 50 degrees.
Oh,
I
poor
got
baby.
I got a buddy down there. Actually, though, it was even worse. A buddy of mine is down there. I talked to him last night. I said, "How's it going?" He says, "It's 31."
Oh, he must be in the northern part of the
He's
state.
a little further up north. He says it was
Boo-hoo.
cold.
My daughter's in Myrtle, and literally Myrtle Beach shut down last Friday and Saturday because they had an inch of ice.
Oh, what?
It's like literally she said everything was closed. You,
yeah.
you couldn't leave your house because
It's incredible down
They
there.
have nothing to do for it. You know,
Right, wait till it melts.
little classes got canceled on Friday at school. And
There's something that happened on Monday? Or no, when?
happened Friday.
Oh, Friday.
They got
Okay.
They got it Friday, and she goes, literally Friday night, you know, every place was shut down. Her place she works at was shut down. She's like, Dad, they don't know how to deal with it down here.
Well, I remember one year, our sports field managers national was in San Antonio, and overnight, the night prior, they had an ice storm. And that morning, when I flew in, it was clear. It was clear. It was sunny, but everything was a glaze.
Right.
The trees, everything. It actually looked beautiful with the sun glistening off of it. So anyway, I was taking the shuttle from the airport to the hotel on the ramps and off the interstates. There's these dump trucks. The box is a quarter of the way up, and there's 2 people in the back shoveling, throwing sand out the back. And all I thought about was, boy, oh boy, OSHA would love to see that.
Yeah.
I remember my grandfather-in-law, he used to work for the state, and he told me back in the day that's how they sanded the
Yeah,
roads.
I bet.
That's what his job was during the winter. Jimmy Rucci used to be back in the truck and shovel the sand and salt under the roads, on state roads.
Wow.
You're talking back in the 30s, 40s, 50s.
Well, yeah, they probably didn't have, sanders, or if they did, the sanders were probably astronomical in price-wise.
They
Because
literally shoveled it.
Maybe you nailed your shoes down to the floor of the back of the pickup.
Irvin told me that story. Hey, Bill, I used to be in the back of the truck and the shovel.
You guys got it easy.
Shovel the salt back of
But I also, life was a lot slower back then. I remember talking to, it was probably Mike Reynolds, highway superintendent at the time. And back in the day, it could be a week before they got to some of the roads for plowing. So nobody was in that big of a rush. When they got there, they got there.
Thank God back then there was no Facebook or phones.
Exactly.
This is so true. I remember Jean telling me stories when she was a kid over in Rondout. They used to sled all day long on Ravine Street.
Yeah.
And that's one of the first ones that gets hit these days because it's a slope. It's a
right.
real good slope. So
now if it's not cleared in an hour, your phones are ringing off.
Yeah,
the hook.
exactly.
Off the hook.
Or if the plows come out too early, your phone's ringing off the hook.
Too much noise.
I got one of them a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, it was funny because later on that same day, I think I talked about it last week, I had someone call and complain that my plows were out at 3 o'clock in the morning on a holiday. I think it was New Year's Eve. But then later on, the next day in the Freeman, there was an article how people in Kingston were upset because the plows came out too late.
Right, exactly. You can't win. You can't.
No.
I got a call a week or so ago from maybe 2 weeks ago. How come the town didn't get out there? The county was out there and they took care of it. But the town road was horrible. And so I call up the highway department. We have the trackers on all the trucks. And I said, tell me, was that road plowed? And they came back and they had the whole printout. Oh, yes, here he was going past this address on that road at 9:15. And then, and it gave the whole thing. And it showed that he was there for half an hour on that stretch of road and then 3 hours later back again. And, I sent the printout. I said, here he was.
They're probably pushing the snow back. The people are probably pushing their snow back out on the road.
Yeah, that's become a huge problem.
Yeah.
Which is illegal, by the way.
In fact, for the first time, we posted after the last storm, we had a lot of probably commercial plow guys who were doing driveways and just leaving mounds out in the road.
And that's I mean, if they're getting, I get it. Sometimes when homeowners do it, they don't know any better. But a commercial plower should know,
not to do it. Right.
They should be held up to a higher standard.
Or even my highway superintendent will say, even just clean it up.
Yeah, just clean it up.
Sometimes, sometimes you've got
You
no
want to
option.
push it out to start, that's fine. But then clean it up when you're done.
That's all.
That's all.
Yeah.
Because all it takes is one stretch there, and it could ruin a whole road with a patch of ice or whatever. You know. And I have to say, so far, knock on wood, in the village, the 2 storms we've had, we haven't had any issues like that. So hopefully we'll keep it up.
The issue became worse for us because they all froze afterwards.
Yeah.
So now you're dealing with big chunks and windrows in the middle of the road of frozen ice and snow. So
winter's almost over.
Well, I'll tell you, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago when I was looking at some of the long-range computer models. Once we get into February, and as we go through February, it looks like we're going to go on the flip side and be above normal for many days. And so we'll just have to wait and see. And
I mean, so far, it really hasn't been too bad of winter, knock on wood.
I know, and I
cold stretches, but the snow hasn't been
right.
Yeah.
And of course, I missed by a day. I flew out the day before it snowed here, so I missed that one.
You haven't
and then
seen the full effect.
We got that surprise dusting. What was it? Monday night.
Yeah.
I went out to I don't know, like 10 o'clock to go to get a coffee Monday night. I'm like, oh my God, there's like an inch of snow in my car.
I was sitting at home and we were probably watching television. I went to flip through Facebook real quick to take a look, and somebody posted in Kingston right now, and it's snowing to beat the band. I said, what was? I look out, and sure enough, we're getting the same thing. And that little dusting turned in, up on top of the hill roads in Woodstock, turned into 3-4 inches almost.
Oh yeah, well, just in Woodstock, I mean, some of the stories you've told in the past, it's like a different world from one section up to the other the other section.
Even on I live on a dead end road. It's got to be maybe 2.5-3 miles long, and it goes up in elevation. I can have rain at my house, and at the top of I can see cars coming down covered with snow, substantial snow. So different worlds.
Yeah, you have a unique situation in Woodstock area because you're right there in the Catskills.
Many unique situations.
Right, and I mean, we can go long and deep with that one.
Yes, we could.
But
that's why I love it.
So
it's so dynamic.
So when the plow truck is leaving the garage and it's raining, okay, to get up to where it's snowing, 3 inches of snow, I'm sure somebody called you. What is this snow plow out while it's raining?
Once in a while, we do get that call.
I would say
you get calls. You get calls for the when you do the overnight snow removal, like last night.
Did we do it last night?
Yeah,
I didn't realize. I drove through the village this morning. I didn't even notice it.
Yeah, I know because Keith was in contact with me.
Okay. Well, I know we were going to do it last week, and then Rich held off because we were supposed to get the storm on the weekend. He says, I might as well. In that initial storm we got was 5 or 6 inches, and usually that's usually the barometer, 6 inches. It's above 6 inches we get right out where you take it out of the business district.
Right.
If it's less than, we kind of depend on the melt. And he was waiting because we were supposed to have a storm on the weekend. But you sure? I didn't.
Well, let me tell you this. When I stopped by the office before he came in, and Keith had touched base with me. As you know, we work with the village guys, and 4 of my team was out there, and both loaders were out. The skid steer was out.
They did then. And, okay, that's good.
And after I left Stewart's, I drove down Main Street. And
I did too. I didn't even notice.
You didn't even notice?
I wasn't even paying attention. It's early. And you know why I wasn't paying attention? Because the reason I pulled in Stewart's.
It was dark too this morning.
Well, it was dark. But yesterday, afternoon, I noticed, the thing came out my car, on my dummy screen of my car. It says 4 tires are 29, 1 tire 22. And it was blinking. So I'm like, okay, I need air in that tire. So last night, I went out for my 10 o'clock coffee, decaf, of course. I put air in that tire, and, the car beeped, which tells me it's got I go out this morning, start my car up. That tire's got 8 pounds in it, so that's why.
Pounds.
So that's why I pulled in the Stewart's.
Okay.
To put air back in the tire. So when I'm driving down Main Street, I'm looking at the dash to make sure the light doesn't come back on, and it's just strange because all day yesterday was on 22, and everyone less than 22. I put air in the last. I'm wondering maybe I didn't put the cap on tight, or I don't know. So
was it pretty flat when you got there?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
So I filled it up. We'll see what it's like when I leave here today. Hopefully I didn't run over something. But that's probably why I wasn't paying attention going down Main Street but that's
focused on that 8 pounds.
And I do get calls on that, and you know what? I mean, the calls over the years have gone down because people realize that it's a big help to get that snow off Main Street.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you, with snow, do you guys shovel all the sidewalks?
No, please don't bring that up. People think we do. But no, it's a responsibility of the building owners. We don't own the sidewalks in the village.
Right.
We don't. I mean, when we had extra grant money last year, we did repair some, through state funding, and, we were able to do a nice section of it. But the sidewalks are the responsibility of the building owners. Right. If someone falls on them or they're not shoveled, it's up to the building owners. I mean, we get named at every single lawsuit, of course.
As do we.
But no, it's not our responsibility. And then people have 24 hours to remove the snow from their sidewalks after the snow stops. And we don't have a problem in the business district. All the businesses are great. And, there's a few guys like Michael Maines and some of these guys that do multiple businesses for them. And they go right down. But we do have some homeowners that we have to stay on top of. Right. And, the thing, it's got to be removed within 24 hours from the time the snow stops. Not the time the snow starts, what some people think it is. Right. And if people don't do it in 24 to 48 hours, we'll go out and do it, and then we'll bill them.
So you put that back on the taxes.
And next time, once they get a $100 bill for a sidewalk shoveling, next time they'll hire Jimmy down the street for $10 to do it.
Right.
So
that's Woodstock, and this goes back 40 years. I remember having conversations with Jeremy 15 years ago about. In Woodstock, it's so nilly-willy. There's a couple of sidewalks that the town actually does take care of. Okay. But there's a lot that we don't.
Well, we do have one section, like the bridge and the hill going up from the bridge. That is village. So we shoveled the bridge, the walk pass on the bridge, and then the hill, East Bridge Street going up.
So do you know how you inherited that?
I have no idea.
Yes, that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's the only section.
When you go over the bridge.
On the right, that sidewalk going up
to like across from where
Henson is.
LeBlanc?
Yeah. We do shovel that sidewalk up to that house on the corner, I believe.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why, but that's the one just like you at Cantine, you shoveled the one by the basketball courts there.
Right, yeah.
But I don't, because some reason, I don't know why, because those sidewalks, there are houses there, but I have no idea. It's always been that way.
Yeah.
That's a state road, though, right?
It's a state road, but, once you go around the corner, it's still a state road, and, the church is responsible for their sidewalk. That one house that has daycare is responsible for their sidewalks. And that's tough for them because it's right on a state road, and the state plows it up. I saw this last storm. They actually took a snowblower and did a path across the lawns for people to walk.
Oh, wow.
Because it's almost impossible to keep those sidewalks clear because there's no place for the state to put it.
Piling it over.
Because you have a wall, and you have the wall on the other side.
Wall on one side, and basically you've got your road, and then immediately you got a sidewalk with no.
It's tough
with no buffer.
Yeah, we try to work with people. I mean, I don't want to be charging people $100 to shovel their walks, but if they're going to be blatant, usually it's absentee landlords who don't take the time to get someone to take care of their walks. Yeah, right. You have 4 tenants living there. Take $20 a month off their rent to have them
and let them
sidewalks.
Take care of it. Right.
So
it's not like they don't have solutions.
Yeah, it has been that bad. I think it's gotten better over the years. We stay on top of it pretty good, and again, we try to be as nice about it as we can. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with lawn care. Right. We have the lawn property. And if we have a derelict property that goes weeks without being taken care of, we're going to go cut it. And then you're going to get a $200 bill for cutting and removing the grass from your lawn. Right. And we'll put I did that law probably 10 years ago.
Okay.
They both fall under property maintenance laws.
I'll have to reach out to you and get a copy of that because we're talking about doing that. I know we have the ability.
Yeah, I mean, I used to do it without having the legal ability, just saying we're going to do it. And then our lawyer's like, Bill, it's great. Let's make it legal. In case someone challenges you. Because, again, when I was first presented with it, I'm like, just go cut their lawn. We're going to send them a bill. If it's legal or not, I don't care.
Right.
And then I talked to and we made it we had to put it into our actual property law so that we do have kind of a leg to stand on.
Right.
But I mean, it's not fair if 2 people on each side of one house are keeping their lawn meticulous and then one in the middle. Now, on the flip side, you have the backyard problems where people use their backyards as junkyards or whatever, and we have those problems in the village, and I get it, and that's a little different. We cannot go into someone's backyard. That's illegal.
Right.
It's got to be what you can view from the road.
Right.
And, we're fighting with a couple people right now that have junkyards in their backyards, and, taking them to court. And taking them to court's great, but...
Costs money.
Costs money, and you're going to fine them, but are they going to clean their yard up? Right. I mean, and it's, again, be respectful towards your neighbor.
Right. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And there's some people that maybe overreacted, their neighbor's backyard. They're like, okay, you got a few things back there, but it could be a lot worse. Like I was saying last week on the radio, is your neighbor a nice person? Are they a friend of yours? Do you have a good neighbor?
Right.
Yeah. Well, then leave them alone.
Right.
I'd rather have a nice neighbor who maybe is a little messy than a jerk neighbor who's meticulous.
100% agreement.
It's to everybody's own taste. I mean, I keep my yard. I like to be meticulous about my yard, and that's just the way I am. But I'm not going to complain if my neighbor doesn't.
Right.
That's just...
It's funny, though. People will often use a zoning law or a maintenance law like that as a hammer.
Yeah.
Where they may not necessarily abide by it all. Of
course not.
But they want their neighbor to.
Don't you love when they send you the copy of the law in the email? Saying,
yeah.
This is the law. Yeah, I know what the law is, okay? And this is what it's like to be a nice human being. Can I send you that law? Have you talked to your neighbor first?
Right.
Go talk to your neighbor first. Said, hey, Bob, do you mind picking up your backyard?
Right.
But no, let's call the mayor and complain to him about it.
I remember sitting on the zoning board of appeals. Somebody comes in, they want a variance to put an addition on or something like this, and we're sitting through the whole thing, getting the facts, and okay, now it's time for the contiguous neighbors to speak. And the one guy gets up and he says, you must deny this. It's going to ruin the neighborhood, blah, 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 blah. And I said, I remember, Mr. Murphy, didn't we give you the same variance last year? He just turned and walked right.
Oh, yeah. Short memories, aren't they?
Short memories.
Oh, I've gotten them.
That didn't ruin the neighborhood, did it?
I had somebody at a meeting one time, a long time ago, and, and somebody I consider a friend, but they were just being a jerk at a meeting and calling themselves a taxpayer. I said, hang on a second. Because I happen to have the tax records that day because we were doing something. I go, you're a taxpayer, huh? I said, you haven't paid your taxes in 3 years. Therefore, I don't consider you a taxpayer at this moment.
Good for you.
And and literally, next day that person came with a check. And I said, if it was that easy, why haven't you paid him in 3 years?
Right. Well, it's crazy.
But I mean, it was just like, and the thing is, I knew that person was coming to me to complain. I was prepared because I knew that. And I'm like, I'm going to get him. I'm going to get them. If they use that famous term, I'm a taxpayer.
Right.
You're a taxpayer, huh? Let's see. Oh, you weren't a taxpayer in 2016, 15, 14, or 13.
Wow.
So therefore, I don't consider you a taxpayer. Oh, they were like red in the face in the meeting. I mean, I'm a taxpayer too, and I love when people say it. You think, again, we. In 10 years as being mayor, the village has not raised taxes in 10 years. Right. Again, we benefited from the consolidation of the police department, and I was able to, but we've done it. I'm a taxpayer too, so if I raise taxes, you don't think that bothers me if I have to raise taxes?
Right.
It's not like we're raising them because we just want extra money. I mean, I'm not saying every municipality is like that. I've seen some municipalities that raise taxes, and there's, for unwarranted raises and things of that nature, but. It's just, again, and then when people send me an email saying, as a taxpayer, when I respond to them, I said, as a fellow taxpayer, here's my response to you.
Exactly. We're all in the same boat.
We're all in the same boat. And, I'm trying.
Right.
We've got some announcements here today. So in fairness to those that send in their, you want to?
So I have one here from and I think I probably butchered this one the last time I was here, the Kingston Manoncore and Damancore social organization. They're having an event, the Winter Wurstfest Takeout. It's on Saturday. Actually, this is January 22nd, so that one's passed. That's an old note there, Greg.
That one's an old note? We have to get rid of that one.
Another one here.
We hope that was a great event.
That good?
Yeah.
The Kingston Veterans Association is doing a trip down to Washington, D.C. It's a 3-day, 2-night trip that'll run from August 5th to 7th. It's $300 per person, double occupancy. For more information, you can contact William Forte at 845-399-0414. That sounds like an interesting trip. They've got here listed all the different sites they're going to be going around. So sounds very nice.
And that price is extraordinarily reasonable. $300 a person.
It's $100 a day.
Yeah.
You can't beat that.
All right. We also, after a 2-year hiatus due to the pandemic, the Sorgity Sports Hall of Fame will resume the tradition of honoring those who have made significant impact on Sorgity sports history. As the Sports Hall of Fame enters its 59th year in 2022, the induction banquet will take place on Saturday, April 9th. Doors open at 5 p.m. with a cocktail and greeting hour from 5:30 to 6:30, followed by dinner and induction ceremonies at 6:30. This will take place at Diamond Mills, 25 South Partition Street, Sorgities. Our 2022 inductees from 2 years ago include Pat Caffrey, Jay Dodick, Mark Herb, along with Steve Ener Martin, and my dear friend, brother from another mother, person who got me involved with the youth in Sorgities, Jimmy Spears. Very sad that Ener and Jimmy are both going posthumously, but a great tribute to both of them. I had to ad-lib that one. All are invited to come out and celebrate the achievements of this year's inductees, be part of this great Sorgities institution and tradition. A fun evening is guaranteed. Tickets for the April 9th induction banquet are available by contacting Mike Hasenbog at Mike, MikeHasenbalg at yahoo.com or phone 914-388-2348. Ticket prices are $30. Also, you can visit our Facebook page for more information.
Okay, and I've got here Lunch and Learn Black History Month reading series, sponsored by the Kingston Library and People's Place, who are teaming up for this month-long discussion in honor of Black History Month. Each week we'll talk about a short story by an African-American author while sharing a meal graciously provided by People's Place Cafe. Pick up the stories ahead of time at either location or read it while we grab lunch. Stop at the cafe first at 777 Broadway to pick up your meal, and then we'll head to the Wellness and Empowerment Center next door at 775 Broadway. Please note that the center is accessible by stairs only. Drop-ins welcome, though registration is appreciated. And you can do that right on the People's Place website, and quite an extensive list. And again, I would be well past our break time if I went into all the details, but practically every day there's events that are going on for both teens and adults. And again, this is in honor of Black History Month, being sponsored by the Kingston Library and People's Place. And again, for all the detailed information for each day's events right through the month of February, you can either go on to the People's Place website or Kingston Library.
And the Kiwanis Ice Arena, located at 6 Small World Avenue in Canton Veteran Sports Complex in Sorgities, will once again be an official stop for the Empire State Winter Game Torch Relay. The torch will be arriving in Sorgities at 4 p.m. on Monday, January 31st, on its trek from New York City to Lake Placid, which is the site of the 2022 Empire State Winter Games. As in past years, this parade is part of the torch relay ceremonies, and the times are scheduled as follows. 4 p.m., Empire State Game Torch Relay arrives in Sorgities. 4:30 to 4:45, all those participating will proceed to the Small World Avenue extension for parade lineup. 5 p.m., Torch Relay kicks off, proceeding down Washington Avenue, onto Main Street, onto Market, down to Bob Mosher Drive, back onto Pavilion Street. 5:45, Torch Relay parade arrives at the Ice Arena, and 6 p.m., on-ice ceremony at the Kiwanis. Empire State Winter Games personnel will be staying as long as needed for photos and others. Further information may be obtained by contacting Jackie DeWitt at 845-532-4584 or Amy Luke at 845-532-3259. Or you may contact the Ice Arena at 247-2590, extension 301.
Yeah, one more minute before the break.
We've got...
Oh, by the way, you left me off copy on that. It's okay. That's okay.
Oh, did I?
I just noticed I'm not on copy. Okay.
Oh, well.
He copied me for everything else. No.
Who are you?
We didn't have that last year, right? Was that not? Did we not do that?
Yeah,
Did we do it
I'm
last
pretty
year?
sure they still did it, but it was
Yeah.
a much low key.
I think by the time I got there, it was over with last year. I think the timing was off a little bit last year, or I got there late and the parade was already going.
Yeah,
I remember the year before being out in the ice and everything, and that was kind of cool. So
Yeah.
I'll definitely try to make it. I'll write it down.
Oh, definitely.
Since I wasn't sent an invite.
Oh dear. Okay, we're exactly at 7:30, and we'll leave on that note that he wasn't invited, and we'll be back in a few.
Thank you, Greg Shorvis, Bill Murphy, and Bill McKenna. Thank you so much. And you're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, WGHQ, and our live streaming on mykcr.org. We'll be right back after these messages.
Oh, we got March coming in.
We bring hope where it's needed. We are a global force for good. Support causes that matter. Change lives. Change communities. Change the world. We can do more together than we can alone. Join in. Experience the joy of serving. Be part of the movement. Give back. Let's unite the world for good. We are Lions. You can be too. Visit weserve.org.
Don't. Just don't. If you see a low-hanging or downed wire, don't touch it. Don't move it. Don't go near it. Don't drive over it. It may be a power line carrying an electric current strong enough to kill. But here's what to do. Stay at least 30 feet away and call 911. Central Hudson will take care of the problem. If you come close to a wire, shuffle away with small steps and watch your step. Wires may be hidden in fallen tree limbs or near water. Your safety matters.
Hi, my name's Maggie. I'm from Copiague, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
And we're back. You're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920, 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. This upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Many locations throughout the Mid-Hudson Valley, one right near you. Abundant sunshine today with a high of 24, so we can say goodbye to this 9 degrees that we have right now. Bitterly cold tonight with a low of 2 degrees. Quite clear. And intervals of clouds and sunshine Thursday with a high of 27. And Thursday night, 19 degrees is the low. Cloudy with a few flurries or snow showers possible, about a 20% chance of that. And Friday, cloudy with a few flurries or snow showers possible, again, about the same. A high of 32 Friday, and Friday night, watching a potential winter storm, which we'll get to know quite well in the next couple days, how it's going to perform and where it's going to move to. And that's a low of 11 degrees on Friday night. And let's get back to the on-air studio with Greg Shorvis and Bill Murphy and Bill McKenna and our guest for this portion.
It's under 600,000.
Thank you, Dan Gatus, and welcome back, viewers and listeners. Those who have been with us, those just joining us. Good morning. Welcome. 331-9255 is our call-in number. And I haven't heard anything differently. March Gallagher is usually our guest.
She is. She's right on. She's right online.
Oh, she's right online?
I'm here,
yes.
guys.
Oh, okay. She's joining us virtually. Good morning, March.
I'm still scared of COVID. I'm sorry, but
That's
I have
okay.
compromised folks in my family, and I really don't want to bring it home. So
Yeah, no
I
worries.
am virtually.
Well, good to have you.
I'm so glad to be here, and I'm excited to talk to you guys. And I wish I was seeing you in person. And Bill McKenna, I wish we were out at Gypsy Wolf. I was thinking about that yesterday.
I miss Gypsy Wolf, too. It's been a long time.
Bill and I had this funny thing happen where our families would go to Gypsy Wolf, and we'd always be there on the same night. Gypsy Wolf Cantina, the former Mexican restaurant in Woodstock. And indeed, my family went, when we learned they were going to close, we went for their, our last dinner there. And of course, Bill and Hillary were there. So we took some pictures. I think I came home with a menu, but I'd like an app on my phone that allowed me to go back to all the restaurants that closed, that I missed. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That would be a good app.
restaurants of the past, like Judy's Kitchen. Did anybody ever eat at Judy's Kitchen? It was a breakfast place. She moved around a bunch of places. She was at the corner of 375 and 28 for a while. Amazing omelets, probably back in the 80s. Anyway.
That one I don't remember.
March, that's a beautiful concept. Restaurants of the past.
Right? Time travel restaurant app.
Yeah.
I love it.
I still use the Gypsy Wolf as a barometer for every Mexican restaurant we go into.
Completely.
Yeah.
Exactly. Completely. I do have some numbers to share with you guys. I don't know, if you've been reading about the Periodic Compensation Review Committee or the pay for elected officials. Elected officials never want to talk about getting a raise, but I want to share some numbers with you guys, particularly with respect to the sheriff and the clerk of the county. The sheriff, the clerk, the comptroller, and the executive have not seen a pay increase since 2009. That is not even a management, not even a cost of living adjustment. And in the case of the clerk, you guys, it's been since 2005. Wow. That is shocking to me, and I wanted to share that with you. There's a lot of positions inside county government that make more than the elected officials, and, there are positions like the Department of Health Commissioner where they have to have an MD, and that makes a lot of sense. Our salaries are recommended by a special committee that's set up under the charter, and then they make a recommendation to the legislature, who has the ultimate decision-making power, and they have recommended raises over time that the committee has put forward, and the legislature has not adopted those. And I know my title is in this bunch, but it's really less about the controller's office than it is about the sheriff and the clerk, because we're not in keeping with what other counties make. And even after my first set of analysis, which was kind of looking at, let's look at the last 10 years, have there been any increases? Let's look at what other, department heads make in terms of their salary. I was able to go back and look at the actual pays so that, people don't just make what their salary is. I don't know if you see this at the town level, and I'm sure that you do, but people can make overtime. They can earn comp time that they may or may not use, and they may be paid out for. They can buy back their vacation. In the sheriff's department, they get a uniform allowance, which makes sense, right, because we expect them to be in uniform. But the shocking part that I want you to know is that in the sheriff's department, the top paid deputies make $53,000 and $46,000 more than the sheriff last year.
Wow.
Georgetown and Saugerties police chief makes tens of thousands of dollars more than the sheriff. He's at $101,000, and it really has to be looked at. So I just want to get out there. I know it's controversial to talk about raises for elected officials. It also doesn't make sense not to give people any cost of living adjustment or any increase since 2005, which is the case of the clerk. The sheriff and the clerk oversee very large staff. That's not true in the controller's office. I don't think the controller's office is so far out of whack, but those other two departments are really out of whack. And I just, I want to get it out there. I want people to know what I'm thinking. You can see our memo on our website. So if people are interested in reading a little bit more on that, they can go to comptroller.ulstercountyny.gov. But I wanted to share that with you and get your thoughts on it. You're all working in local government, and, it's pretty hard to step out and say something controversial like this, but I think it's important. So anyway, that's my opening, Sally. I'll shut up now.
I always have a joke on that, Marge, and I'm not saying this for myself, but I always tell people I am the lowest paid village employee by $30,000. And again, I mean, I know what the salary is when I took the position as mayor 10 years ago and haven't taken a raise in 10 years. And you're right. We, as public officials, we don't like to put in for raises because then it becomes controversial, but I always,
and Bill, it's such an amount of time, right? It's not.
I figure I work for about $1 an hour.
A week.
I work for about $1 an hour, I figure, give or take, when it comes to, and again, I chose it. I'm not complaining by any means. I love my position, and obviously I have a full-time job that, I don't do it for the money, of course. But I still remember a guy one day, real quick, I was in a store, and he goes, "Hey, Mayor, get me a job." And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll just get you a job. And he's like, well, it must be nice to be you. He goes, what do you make, about 150 grand a year? I said, I make 10 grand a year. He goes, what? I said, I make 10 grand a year. He goes, why do you do it? I said, because I care about my community. I'll never
do it for love.
He goes, I'll never bother you again. And he never has since that. He was like shocked, you know. And I'm like, I said, people in these positions don't do it for the money. Yeah. You know, it's again, I was born and raised here, you know. And listen, not everybody likes me, and that's fine. I get it, but you know, I am devoted to the community. To me, it's a 24/7 job. You know, I get calls, texts at night.
If a water main breaks in the middle of the night, you're getting a call.
That happened Saturday night, you know, or Sunday morning, and you know, fires, everything, you know. But you do it for the love of the community, and I've experienced so many positive things over these years, and met and befriended so many people that I probably wouldn't have befriended if I wasn't mayor. That, you know, it outweighs it, but it does get frustrating sometimes when, you know, people expect things out of you, and you're like, you know, it's like, no, that's what I have a staff for. I mean, I have people call me, I was saying last week, for personal things, and this lady called me last week, got me off another phone call because it was an emergency. There's a complaint about her neighbor's garbage.
That was the emergency.
That was the emergency. And I said, first of all, can't you deal with that with my front office? You needed to talk to me.
Right.
Because she wouldn't tell my staff what it was for. It was just an emergency.
It's funny how people are like that, though.
And I get it. They know me and they think I can talk to you. And I get it. And I like to be accessible as possible, but don't play something like that as an emergency.
Right.
Well, and the more problems you solve, the more people come to you for those.
Absolutely. And I put that out there. That's
the better you are,
on me.
the more you work.
Yes. And I put myself out there like that, so it's mainly on me. No question about it.
So I'm at the other end of it. I believe I still am the highest paid supervisor in Ulster County. This year I'll make just over $60,000.
Want to trade?
No, I love Woodstock. Saugerties is nice too, but maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when I first took over as supervisor, I was still able to run a construction business. I was still putting in probably 40 hours a week as supervisor, you know, weekends, evenings, and whatnot. I did muse that, you know, if that trend kept, that, you know, I'd even consider maybe lowering the salary at that time. Well, it didn't. You know, it just got busier and busier, and then the pandemic hit, and you know, I'm easily in the office 9-10 hours a day, and then outside the office. For instance, this morning at 5 o'clock, I get a phone call from the sheriff's department that there's a woman with 3 children out of fuel. You know, and we're dealing with getting fuel oil over to her.
Those are the good things, though, when you're in a position
absolutely
to be able to assist people like that. That's when you feel like you're doing something of purpose.
Those are the most important things I think I do, and I'm sure you feel the same. But the point is, it's 24/7.
I mean, I'm fortunate. My full-time job, I work from home, so I spend 10 hours a day in the mayor's office, but I multitask. I do my regular job, and I'm there for any issues that come up.
Right.
And sometimes it's more than 10 hours. I get there at 8. Sometimes I don't leave till 6, 7 o'clock at night.
Right.
You know, it all depends. And
so,
meetings
I think one of the outcomes is that people who are in a, I'm going to use the word privileged position can run for these jobs. I have a spouse who has a second income. You know, otherwise it might be a different story. The county executive had, you know, Pat Ryan had been in a startup company that he was able to sell. Juan Figueroa is retired, right? So it's like, we want to make sure that people can run for those positions. And like, for example, you know, there's 5 or 6 police chiefs for towns in Ulster County that make more than the sheriff. Why would they want to take that opportunity to run for that position? Now, I've heard other, you know, people have said things like, well, you know, there's a lot of privileges in there. You have control and you have authority. You can appoint people. You know, there are benefits. I'm not saying there's not. And I love my job, and I took it at the pay it's at. So I'm happy there. But I do think, you know, these positions should be open to, you know, people who may not have a second income or may not have a spouse supporting them or a trust fund or a retirement under their belt. So anyway, it's just a thought. We'll see what happens going forward. It'll be really interesting to see what the committee does. And I'm excited to see their work. It's a little bit delayed because of COVID, but you guys are 24/7. I think the supervisors work incredibly hard and are expected to be on call 24/7. We see it. So thanks for your service. I can tell you right now, like, I shut down by 7 o'clock. You know, even my night meetings are usually over by then. And people are not calling the controller at 11 o'clock at night with a water main break.
No.
But if you want to, they can. We can probably arrange that. You know.
I'd be happy to
Just
post your
transfer
number.
them right over.
What's your phone number, Marge?
Oh, my goodness. You know, listen, let me just give a little update on 2021's books for the county. You know, we're not going to close them out formally until a little bit further into the year because we're still putting invoices in. But we are in a kind of an amazing financial position. We are definitely going to close with a surplus. Our sales tax is, you know, way above budgeted, and we're probably going to close out at the $150 million range, and we were budgeted at 120. You know, it was a lower budgeted number because of the pandemic, but it's exceeded expectations, and I think that means that we're going to see more money added to fund balance right now. And that none of what I'm saying includes the American Rescue Plan dollars, which the county, you know, got its first tranche of just over $17 million last spring, and we're going to see another $17 million this coming spring. There is a special committee now set up in the legislature to monitor and recommend funding coming out of that American Rescue Plan pool. They're going to meet tonight, so if listeners are interested, I think they can check out the Zoom. If you go to the legislature and click on their calendar, there'll be a link there. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm trying to track those dollars, and let me tell you, from where I sit, so far it's been a nightmare. We've used about $1.7 million of our first 17, and it's been used to pay hazard pay. Remember we had that whole conversation about COVID hazard pay, you guys, and I was saying I was staunchly opposed. Well, in our union settlement agreements, we are paying it to people that showed up every day. And then we used some of it to pay for staffing at the vaccination pod. So I don't know what you guys are using it for, and I know the county has a lot more than the towns, but yeah, we're going to be tracking that moving forward.
Yeah, we're still
kicking around ideas.
Yeah, we have some, you know, we obviously our amount, I think the village was $198 a year for 2 years, so we're still kicking around. It's been in the paper, a couple of things we were talking about doing with it, you know, so but right now, you know, it's sitting there, and we're going to figure out a good use within the parameters for it.
We Woodstock did do bonus pay for our employees. The other thing that we've spent some money on is we gave a lump sum to Family of Woodstock because they've, throughout the pandemic, have provided great service for the town through their hotline and whatnot. And I know that they've taken a hit, as have all not-for-profits, with a decrease in funding.
And is that allowable within the guidelines?
Yes, for mental health, and I can look up the exact
that's a good
wording.
I like. Okay.
The other thing Woodstock is looking at, the whole county's in crisis now with the affordable housing, workforce housing, and whatnot, and that's probably another area where we'll take and put some funding towards. So,
I like that idea. Unfortunately, a few $100,000 or even a few million doesn't do a lot in the housing arena.
No.
And yeah, it's a little bit hard to really, you know, make a huge impact, especially considering the need. We just put up a real estate market report yesterday on our Facebook, and median home sale price is up 23%. That's December 20 to December 21. And median home sale price is now $375,000. And meanwhile, new listings dropped 28.5%, closed sales dropped 26%, and homes for sale in general dropped 39.2%. Inventory's down to 2.8 months. Boy, that sounds like an unemployment rate, 2.8. Anyway, yeah, home sale price is so high right now, and it's going to be challenging to figure out all the different tools in the toolbox to work on that.
Yes. We actually put a moratorium in place on a limited amount of development. What we were seeing was a lot of properties being bought up and turned into transient lodging, motel, hotel, STR type businesses. So we put a moratorium on that, and we've got consultant in working with a group, and I think they're making pretty good headway, but it is a daunting challenge to come up with incentives.
Bill, aren't you guys working in Woodstock on a home share program? Do you know anything about that?
Family of Woodstock is actually, that did come out of my office and with my, who was deputy at the time, Maria Elena Conti, and Family of Woodstock took that over as a concept and are working to implement that.
I love that idea.
I
So
think
the
it's a
idea
great
really
one.
is that people who have extra room in their house could open up that space for somebody else. And the reason I like it is we have a lot of aging seniors who are in housing that is too big for them.
Yeah.
It's expensive, it's hard to pay the taxes, it's hard to maintain, and it's lonely also. And meanwhile, we've got other people looking for housing. So I'm really looking forward
multiple
to watching
benefits.
that.
That's a cool idea.
The idea, I don't know exactly how it came about, but and I'm not going to mention names, but we have a poster couple for this where there was an older couple. He's since passed away, and they took in a younger gentleman. They had a little, I guess it could be considered an apartment, and I don't know what the financial arrangement was, but part of it was instead of paying cash rent that he helped out around, he brought in their firewood and did this and did that, and they've become friends. I mean, they socialize now. They keep each other company. It's a great idea, and it's worked out really well. Is it going to solve the problem? No, but could it help 15, 20, 30 individuals, or you double it? Actually, you've got a renter and a rentee. It's a great idea, and as you said, we've got a number of older couples who raised families in town with multiple bedroom homes that are now rambling around on their own and have the space to do this.
And we definitely have that in Saugerties. I know a number of seniors who are in their house themselves and really could use help. So it would be nice if there was a program to support that transition, because a lot of times it means having to get extra space ready, which is not always easy, right?
Well, and the nice thing with
taking care of any house is not easy, but yeah, I'm excited to see how that program progresses. It's not going to solve our problems, but I think we need a multi-pronged approach that does everything. The IDA, by the way, is continuing their moratorium on housing projects for now. So, maybe they'll be coming up with a tax policy, a tax exemption policy that addresses housing. I'd like to see that in the future. But for now, we're just kind of muddling through.
Bill and March, what's the name of that program?
It's called the Home Share Program.
Home Share. Okay, thank you.
And with Family of Woodstock implementing it, I mean, they can take it to every town in the county.
Now, is there a vetting process with that? Like, in other words, you certainly want to make sure you're putting the right people in homes with other people, and not someone that's out there.
I don't know how far along they are, Bill, but yes, that was one of the things that they wanted to overcome.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of sinister people out there.
Absolutely.
Next thing you know, they'll be taking over bank accounts and
in this day and age, I mean, the first thing we think about with anything is what's our exposure, what's our liability.
Exactly.
How do we minimize all
and
that?
it's sad that we have to think that when you're trying to help elderly people. But
yes.
I have heard that the program, like through Family of Woodstock, is pretty well vetted.
That's good.
That's my understanding. Is they have a process in place.
I just threw the link to an article that was on the program in your YouTube chat. So if listeners are watching on there, they can see a little bit more detail about that program. Yeah, I think it really could be something that we check out.
Yeah, it's our YouTube. That's our live streaming.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey,
thank you for the comment, March. Thank you for that.
Tech City
you go on the
I know
webpage
that
for
we're
this
gonna,
and click on the link.
I know we're going to be closing in on the end of the hour, and I want to say a few words about Tech City, if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
It's,
go right ahead.
I think, first of all, let me just say, I applaud the county executive for trying to move on this property and get something done there. I'm really relieved, especially having personally tried to negotiate with Allen Ginsberg when I was in economic development. I did issue a series of objections at the end of the process. The county flipped the property to its LDC, the Ulster County Economic Development Alliance, and the alliance approved the sale to Cotter to National Resources, which, by the way, I had recommended a year ago or more because they've developed the old IBM plant in Fishkill, and they've done a good job there. So I'll be watching that transaction very closely. We sold it for $5 million, which will be paid over time, $1 million a year, and then a $7 million credit for any environmental expenditures that the developer makes on the property. So I'll be looking to see, do they really spend $7 million? And if they don't, are we going to see some of that money back to go into job creation in Ulster County? But I'm really excited about the opportunities there, and I do think that National Resources is a good fit for repurposing a complicated site. And, and that site was 7,000 jobs a day. So I'm excited about it. And, in my role, I complain. I'm the watchdog. I'm always complaining about transparency and accountability, womp, womp, womp. But it's important to have somebody watching those details and making sure. My big beef with the whole transaction is that they decided on the purchase price without having an appraisal of the property. And now it's sitting in escrow while they await the appraisal. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be an exciting transition for sure.
Good. Did you say there'd be 7,000 jobs down there?
There were 7,000 jobs when IBM was at its height.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that. Yeah, okay.
Including my dad.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here. Did you know that, Bill, that Jay was an IBMer?
I did.
He was a mainframe guy, and they transferred him up from Brooklyn.
He wasn't a suit and tie IBMer, though, was he?
Yeah, everybody there was in a tie, I think.
Do you have a picture of that?
Culture. You guys, my dad's a florist. He's a hippie florist now, so
he's a hippie. Yeah. Do you have a picture of him in a suit and a tie?
Oh, I'm going to have to dig and see.
Please do.
A couple of pictures of him from that era.
You can't see the expression on his face, but he's up to no good.
I can see him on the video. I have the sound turned off.
So
it just shows you what an impact it had, right? IBM really moved a lot of people here and developed, pushed to develop a lot of housing. Let's not forget, right?
Xena, area of Woodstock.
Berkeley Heights of Sorganies.
Yeah. So our community's been really impacted by that, and I think we can, look to the future to see what the redevelopment will do and what these other there's a lot of other large projects happening and on the horizon, right? Winston Farm being one of them. So they can have generational impacts.
Absolutely.
I saw that what town was it that was considering an increase in the fees on projects? Was it Saugerties, you guys? I can't remember. In anticipation of a large project. I thought maybe it was Saugerties.
I don't know. I don't think so, unless I've missed it.
Not the village.
Okay, maybe no, it wasn't the village. All right, I'll have to look into it.
We don't get large projects in the village.
I mean, I could be wrong. I was away for 10 days, so and just got back last evening. Could very well be.
We don't mind getting Greg Curvis some more rec fees, right? I'm sure you have some projects you could handle.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me on, you guys, on the phone. I really appreciate it. I know it's not the same as being in person, and I'm hoping once we're through this Omicron wave, I can be there in person. I'm also missing, Antonio Delgado's presentation to the chamber at 8 o'clock. It's very hard to balance all the competing needs. I have a son turning 17. He wanted to have a birthday party or a couple friends over for his birthday, and I have to go get tests for that. It's a whole new world, right?
That is for sure.
It is. That's right. The chamber breakfast is this morning. I hate when they fall on a Wednesday like that. Yeah. There's always, our lives are way, way too busy. Too much going on.
It's going to be hard to know how to get back to normal. When you think about it, it's like, I can't remember what normal was.
You just have to create a new normal.
Yeah.
Well, that's
it's going to be a new normal. I don't think it's going to be back to.
No, it's never going to be back the way it was. And I've said this time and time again. Many of the new BMPs, the best management practices, all of us have instituted and put in place. They're going to stay there.
Yeah, a lot of them are.
They're going to stay there. And there's also been I've said this all along, the silver linings that come out of it.
Right.
How we do things, and all that stuff's not going to just magically go away.
No.
It will be a new normal, and I just can't wait to get there.
Yeah.
Well, March, thank you very, very much for joining us. As you said, we love having you in the studio, but when that doesn't work out, joining us virtually will suffice.
All right, thank you. I really love it, and I will be back in studio, I promise you.
Okay, we'll count on it. Thank you very much, and we're at the top of the hour, so viewers and listeners, we'll be back in a few. Take it away, Dan.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Bill McKenna. Thank you, Bill Murphy, and a very, very special thanks to March Gallagher for calling in, Comptroller, Ulster County Comptroller. And you're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM. It is now 8 o'clock a.m., Wednesday, January 26th, and a very frigid 8 degrees right now here in uptown Kingston. This last portion of Kingston Community Radio has been brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Many locations throughout the Mid-Hudson Valley, one right near you. We'll be right back after these messages.
Be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute? When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can. But it's just as important to take time for yourself. AARP can help. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Are you a renter or homeowner having trouble paying past due electric and gas bills? The Regular Arrears Supplement Program may help. If you're eligible for the program, you could receive up to $10,000 in aid. If you're behind in rent payments, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program may also help. Get the relief you need to help pay off those bills. Visit the Assistance Programs section of centralhudson.com for eligibility and application requirements.
Hi, this is Cameron Rylands from Kingston, and I support Kingston Community Radio because it's informative.
And we're back, and thank you for being with us here on the Super Wednesday. This upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Central Hudson. And thank you, Central Hudson. You're listening to WGHQ, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, the home of Kingston Community Radio. Wednesday, January 26th. It's a whopping 8 degrees right now here in uptown Kingston, but it's going to go up to 24 degrees today with quite a lot of sunshine. It's going to be bitterly cold tonight. Clear skies, 2 degrees is the low. And Thursday, intervals of clouds and sunshine, a high of 27. And Thursday night, cloudy with a few flurries or snow showers possible. It's about a 20% chance of snow showers on Thursday night. And Friday, cloudy with a few flurries or snow showers possible, same, about 20%, with a high of 32 on Friday. Friday night, we're watching a potential winter storm, and as we know, that could be coming from just about, it's veering in, and we'll see how it might hit us. But we have a low of 11 degrees on Friday night, and the chance of snow is about 30%. And like we said, this upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Central Hudson. Let's get back to the on-air studio and also see what kind of birthdays we have today, too.
Thank you, Dan Gatus, and welcome back, viewers and listeners who have been with us. Those just joining us, 331-9255 is our call-in number, and we would love to hear from you. We have got our State Assemblyman, Kevin Cahill, here in the studio.
Morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Morning.
Along with Supervisor from Woodstock, Bill McKenna, and Village Mayor Bill Murphy, who's choking on his coffee.
and voluminous little sandwiches, too.
Sorry about that.
That was a good move, Kevin. One pat and you had him stop coughing.
Actually, I had that done to me in a restaurant about 25 years ago.
Did you?
I was choking on a piece of steak. And Freddie Tempassis from Dallas Out Wieners, him and I were out to dinner. and we're at one of the steakhouses in Sorgady's, and I started choking on a piece of steak, and he gave me the Heimlich, and
oh man, wow!
For the next 5 years, every time I went to a restaurant, the owner goes, "No steak for you." But thank you, Freddie, for saving my life. I always remember that.
Do we have any birthdays here today, gentlemen?
We have one birthday.
Just one.
Just one. It's Kevin Reginato from your friends at People Place. We hope you enjoy your special day. So I think I know who the winner might be.
Moo.
There's only one, so it's Kevin Reginato. Hey, the cow is lively again, huh?
That's right.
And we'd be remiss if we... Oh, God, you got to finish that?
Yes, then you can be remiss. So, Kevin Reginato, congratulations. Happy birthday when you get the opportunity. Get down to Boy's Dairy Milk House, 62 O'Neill Street, right here in Kingston, New York, and pick up that famous cow pie, courtesy of Boy's Dairy Milk House and Kingston Community Radio. Listeners, viewers, please continue to send those birthdays in and anniversaries. It's very, very easy to do. You can email to kcr921@gmail.com. You can postal mail to KCR at P.O. Box 4364, Kingston, New York, 12402. Kevin Reginato, once again, congratulations. Happy birthday. Enjoy that cow pie and have an awesome day.
And getting back to being remiss, we'd be remiss if we forgot our co-host whose birthday was yesterday, Mr. Supervisor Fred Costello.
Happy birthday,
Fred. Oh, happy birthday, Freddie.
And also, we know it was kind of a bittersweet birthday for him. I was talking to him. For the listeners who don't know, Fred's dad passed over the weekend. And our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. And, sad loss. And
what an icon in Sorgady's Freddie's dad was.
Boy, I'll tell you.
I mean, I talked to him on Saturday. I'm like, and I was blessed too. I had a father who was, I lost him very early, but old school. Mm-hmm. And when you have an old school dad, it was just an icon in the community. I mean, Freddie's dad was somebody who everybody knew. Everybody knew. And
well, Freddie's following in his footsteps.
Absolutely.
I was just going to say exactly the same thing. I think he has a lot of his dad.
He's a mini Fred. Yeah, that's why he's Fred Jr. I mean,
a mini me.
It makes sense. He is. Because Dad would greet everybody, talk to everybody. You couldn't eat dinner there without his dad coming up to you and his mom. And at Sunday night, at the wake, when Hank got up to do the thing, the service. Freddie's mom all of a sudden stood up and started talking about him, and she's got that real deep Italian drawl still. And it was like, it just broke the ice for the whole thing, because she was funny. And she's Freddie loved all his grandkids, and she's just and everybody just started laughing because it was like, you took a serious moment and she just made it so light. And literally everybody clapped when she got done talking. It was like,
well, that's good to hear that.
Oh, it was so cool.
That's what I was concerned about.
It was so. I mean, I think even Hank was kind of taken back because all of a sudden she started talking from her seat, and Hank's like, "Go ahead, stand up," and she stood up and she started talking to her grandkids, and it was like, I'm sitting in the back and I was just smiling like, this is what you want, the celebration.
Yeah.
83 years. Freddie's dad did so much in the community and was so loved in the community, and it was just cool. It was just and I was glad I was at the wake at that time to see that, And
I'm glad you brought that up, Billy.
Yeah.
Because that was he's the idea of making a wake a celebration is just a beautiful, beautiful thing.
You mentioned
Open it up.
A couple of minutes ago about old school. You talk about a worker. I mean, up until the time where he couldn't do it any further. I remember just before they built the new place over there. Remember the flat roof that they had on the old place? Well,
that always leaked.
That always leaked. Okay, I pull in to get a bowl of soup because she used to make some great homemade soup, Maria, and it's still snowing, and there's Freddie Sr. up on the roof, shoveling snow off of the roof, of the flat roof.
Or any given day during the summer, he'd be out back in his backhoe just driving around.
Yeah.
He just loved driving his backhoe, and, but he knew everybody,
yes,
and that's old school, and that's even what, the community of Glasgow, the hamlet of Glasgow and Sorgaties, is a traditional old school community, and he exemplified it. And him and my grandfather, who I was talking earlier about, were very close friends. You know, my grandfather hung out at the barbershop every day. You know, we're all saying they're up there now, and all the old school guys from Glasgow, and it's just, it's to see old school go.
And they're looking down on us, and they're cursing the hell out of us for calling them old school.
But they were, my dad was old school too. I wish he could have lived to 80 or 90. He only lived to 65, but I mean, you don't see that anymore. I still think of my dad as a legend himself. He was somebody everybody knew, and some people didn't like.
Everybody knew Bud.
Everybody knew Bud. Yeah. 5'7", 140 pounds, but you didn't mess with him, man. He'd kick anybody's ass. But he was old school. Grew up working at a cement plant, worked 80 hours a week, put 6 kids through college, and never complained. And never had a new car.
That was not easy work.
No. I always, until I was 15, I thought our cars were always gray, but it was cement dust. We never had a new car, but never complained. Had a home and a roof over our head in a nice neighborhood, and we all went to school. And my parents, old school parents sacrificed for their kids. Freddie's parents always sacrificed, and you don't see that as much these days. I'm trying to raise my family that way, but that's gone away, and it's sad. So. Yeah. I'm taking away from Kevin's time. I'm sorry.
Listen, it's a great topic. Fred really did admire his dad, and I think the whole community did. And this is his time actually on the radio, so it's just fine that we remember his family for it. So, cool. But hello everybody. How's everybody doing? It's good to see Supervisor Bill McKenna here today from the great.
Thank you for the muffin and the
great Republic of Woodstock.
Yeah, things are going well up in Woodstock.
Yeah. So I tried to get here a little bit early, but Colleen, when I called to order the sandwiches, was taken in the groceries. It's tough to be a one-woman show, I think.
That's for sure.
She's kind enough to make them before 8 o'clock when she opens her restaurant anyway, so I wasn't going to press my luck.
No. Well, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
How are things with you?
Things are good. We're in the middle of the budget season. We've been up in the time that we're not on the floor of the assembly or in committee meetings. We are in conference dealing with the budget, going through every part of it. We had an overview on Monday. We started doing public protection yesterday. We're going to look at education today. This is in committee. And also in the Democratic Conference, we're sitting and pulling it apart piece by piece to see where it goes. And the complication this year is something very different from other years. In other years, we look to see if the items we care so much about got cut. This year, we're looking to see how much they got funded.
Wow.
Because the governor put together a really expansive budget, one that recognized that we have to get back to normal as quickly as we can. We all want to get back there. And so several things have been bolstered to get us there. Education aid, I've been talking to superintendents, and I have to tell you, this is the first year in my entire experience that I'm not hearing about being shorted in the state budget. This is just the governor's proposal. Usually at this point, they're pulling their hair out. They're wondering how are they going to make ends meet with the governor's proposal. This year, they're really asking about what are we going to do in 2 or 3 years when their federal special aid dries up. Right. But there's a lot of other issues.
So first budget with a new governor in 10, 11 years, it's started out on the right foot.
Absolutely. This is a very different governor. I can tell. And
smiling a lot, Kevin.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. There was a time at some point in the Cuomo administration, actually, like on the second day, when his agency stopped being responsive to legislators.
Mm-hmm.
And we would make a call 99% of the time on behalf of our constituents or in the area that we were in charge of in the legislature, and we probably were not going to get a call back. We probably were not going to get the advice we sought or the help that we sought. Governor Hochul's staff, Secretary, the Commissioner of Transportation, the Superintendent of Insurance, the commissioners of other agencies have been reaching out to us and seeking us out. Yesterday, Adrian Harris was confirmed, I think, as the fourth fourth superintendent of the Department of Financial Services, the first one who does not come from a prosecutor's background, and with some expertise in an area that we're just learning about. It's called fintech. It's a financial technology. And she texted me upon her confirmation, which was like, boy, I would think she'd want to call her family. So we've had several conversations already to try to get things done. So we're working very well with the governor, and the governor's budget proposal is transparent. It's pretty easy to see that the extra money that we have this year is being put into things that will not need to be repeated in the coming years. But at the same time, we're taking advantage of the fact that we're not stressed at the edges to do some things that are long overdue. Raising the salary for direct care workers, increasing the funding for schools to make good on the foundation aid, doing some of that capital improvement stuff that's long overdue, a big giant chunk of money for roads, and you're going to see some of it in your community. You're going to see it in Saugerties as well, and bridges. We're doing, since Governor Hochul became governor, we have announced in excess of $55 million in just bridge projects in Ulster County. Just bridges, just Ulster County. Of course, the lion's share of that was the Rondout Creek Bridge, but there have been several bridges out in the hustings too, where they're long in need of repair. So I think she has her arms around it. She comes from a local government background. She was a county clerk, and then she was elected to Congress. From Congress, she became lieutenant governor. Of course, she did lose an election in between, but that's another story. But she has her finger on the pulse. She really is a person who understands how our communities work. I have all the respect in the world for the folks that come from the New York City area, but it's a different world. Yeah. It's a different kind of government.
You've got to recognize that.
Yeah. So this is a nice refresh for everybody, and we're looking forward to it. At the same time that we're doing that, the Independent Redistricting Commission that was responsible for reapportionment across the state declared on Sunday that they could not finish their job, and they walked away from the table.
Really?
Yeah. So now the job of redistricting falls back to the legislature, and we will have to define new districts for the entire state, and we're going to try to do it very quickly to accommodate the needs for local conventions and local petitioning, and try to make sure that there's not a blip on the screen. But
right, when does petitioning start?
March 1st. So
you guys got a deadline.
We got a deadline, but we've been looking. We've been looking at the data.
Right, so you're not starting from day one.
And we have a commission that's in place because this is written into the law that should the IRC, the Independent Redistricting Commission, not be successful, that the Legislative Redistricting Commission would have to take over.
Did they give a reason for why they were walking away?
Well, they were deadlocked. They issued a preliminary plan in November, and the preliminary plan was panned across the board. Democrats, Republicans, people involved, good government, everybody panned it. Then they made those districts, largely the same districts, finalized in their first offering. And the process is they do a first offering. If the legislature doesn't accept it, they do a second offering. And the districts look largely the same. And I'll give you an example. They took this assembly district and they disconnected it from the central part of this county and the part in northern Dutchess that is certainly a part of this community, and they pushed us way north into the middle of Greene County.
Okay.
The congressional district...
Did you pick up Saugerties?
Well, I would actually have picked up Catskill in that iteration.
Okay, right. Saugerties and beyond.
Yeah, Saugerties is we'll get back to that subject in a moment. The congressional district, which already stretches over to Montgomery County and places far beyond here, would have gone even further and would have pitted, should they both decide to run again, our Congressman Antonio Delgado against Congressman Paul Tonko.
Wow.
And right now this district was written by the Republican Senate 10 years ago to be a Republican-dominated district. And it was successful. Chris Gibson, followed by John Faso. Of course, then Antonio Delgado defeated John Faso to become our congressperson. But the district was largely designed by the Senate to be overwhelmingly in favor of one party or another. What our goal is to do is to make it competitive so that the candidate can win, not the party. And we're confident we'll be able to do that. I've been spending as much time on New York 19 as I have on New York 103. So, but the subject of Sorgetes is an interesting one because I represented Sorgetes for my first 2 years in office and then my next 4 years in office.
Okay.
And so for 6 years altogether. And then in 2002, it was removed from this district and shifted over to a district that was represented by first a man named Dan Hooker and then a person, Peter Lopez, and now Chris Tague.
Yeah.
I apologize. I don't know where any one of those three gentlemen are from. But
Peter was out from by Cooperstown, out that area. He was pretty far.
They're not from here,
Right.
and so Sorgetes has been out there, and
This is from Kinderhook, actually.
oh, he is okay, yeah. But I was approached by our legislative redistricting folks with questions about reapportionment. We don't have any say over what the commission will give us, but they do come to us for advice about, well, hey, I see there's a big river between your towns. Is that a big deal? Is that a big deal? And I said, no, because guess what? They put a big bridge on it. And we can get there from here. So they come to us for that kind of advice. And they were asking me about Sorgetes. And they said, where does Sorgetes fit in? I said, well, it's absolutely tied to the northern part of Ulster County, not really to the other parts. So there's some association with Greene County. But it's really, it's the hub of the northern part of the county, Woodstock, Ulster, Kingston. And they said, well, if we were going to move the district around, should we put that back in? I said, absolutely. If you well, here's why, Bill. The population shift in New York State was that upstate continued to lose population, and the greater metropolitan area continued to grow. Rockland County grew by 12% in the last 10 years. So there's a pressure to push all districts northward. And by returning Sorgetes to this assembly district, we will have accomplished that pretty significantly. What that means to the southern part of the district, what that means to the western part of the district here is another question. I don't know, but it's the question that they've asked me, and I answered in the affirmative. And they said, well, and this was the part where it got a little sticky. They said, well, if we added Sorgetes and the 20,000 people from Sorgetes, which 19,200 people would you be willing to see move away to another district? And I said, none. They said, yeah, you can't do that. I can't have an assembly district of 150,000 people. So we'll wait to see. It's in the next several days. Like I said, I'm very interested in the congressional lines, and there's a good reason for that. But I'm also interested in the Senate lines. The Senate lines are very important. Right now, Ulster County, 180,000 people, are divided into four separate senatorial districts. Each senatorial district has over 300,000 people in it. There's no reason why we shouldn't have the bulk of Ulster County being represented by a single representative in the Senate, so we can have some identity. And so I'm pushing for that as well. One of the things about Congress is that unlike New York State, almost every other state is going in the opposite direction with democracy. They are restricting voting. They're making it more difficult for people to run for office, and they've taken the reapportionment process specifically for the purpose of favoring one party over the other. New York State has to do it differently. We have to do it so that we elect people based upon the merits, not based upon their party affiliation. And we're going to do that. And if we do that, New York State is predominantly Democratic. We should be sending a delegation to Washington that is predominantly Democratic. And if we do, there's a distinct possibility that the balance of Congress won't shift. So folks around here should be aware that our reapportionment process will potentially determine the balance of power in the United States House of Representatives. Wow. That's pretty daunting. And the election or not of Antonio Delgado will make that decision as well.
So I don't mean to steal airtime, but I do have to leave at 8:30, and I didn't want to announce this earlier because it wasn't official, but I got a text from Mike Gaffney over at Ulster County. We'll be giving 2,000 test kits away, a drive-through in Sorgeties at the Cantine Veteran Sports Complex on Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. So there's 2 test kits. There's 2 tests in each kit, so basically 4,000 tests. And that'll be a drive-through between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. That's this Friday at the Cantine Veterans Sports Complex.
Great.
Same place where we had it previously. That the town undertook. This is a county initiative, and again, for all our residents and everybody, even in the neighboring communities, obviously it's not just restricted to Sorgeties residents. Anybody that needs a test kit, please don't show up 2 hours early, though. We won't be ready for you.
And also, don't wait till you need it.
Yeah.
And we still have supplies left at Village Hall, so anybody in the village or town, they can stop in our office and pick one up as well. Why supplies last.
Same in Woodstock, supervisor's office.
And the good news now is that when this started, this massive test distribution, the massive mask distribution, I don't know if you guys are giving away bleach. We have a little bit of that too.
We have masks.
But when it first started and people started testing, we had this gigantic spike in the number of people who were testing positive, and it coincided with the onset of the Omicron variant. I think this round of testing will give us a signal that we are heading home, that we're heading back to normalcy, because I think this time when people test, they're going to find out that they're not positive and that they can start to live their lives again. We're starting to see it.
And I heard a number today, just on the way here, that the rate in New York State has dropped by 66 or
Unbelievable.
86%.
It went
the
from-
largest in the country, largest percentage
It
reduction.
was 60. It went from like 70 something to like the teens.
Yeah.
And if the courts would let the public health experts do what they want to do, it would drop even faster sooner. The big issue yesterday with a couple of the superintendents I spoke to was they were watching the court system in New York State because a judge on Long Island had ruled the governor's mask mandate to be unconstitutional, and the state was in court arguing. The Attorney General Tish James was in court arguing that no, it was not, and an appellate court stayed the decision of the lower court. So the mask mandate is in effect today to any superintendent who's listening, and it will stay in effect until the courts sort it out.
I think the tentative date is isn't it sometime in March? Is there a date set for that?
The
mask mandate?
Yeah, it's limited. It's limited, and it's under the governor's executive power. So yeah, there's it's a finite determination, and it's based upon public health data. And when you hear a number like a 60% drop in the number of positive cases, it didn't happen by accident. It happened because people.
I think she had a press conference over the weekend when she showed the chart, and it was just amazing in 2 weeks how it just really back down to where it was prior to the spike.
Which is what's happened over in Africa, too. I mean, they saw their numbers skyrocket up and then within a month start to come back down again. So
I just heard another interesting statistic that the entire nation of China has reported exactly one COVID death in the past year. Something tells.
That's a little hard to
I'm thinking, I would think maybe at the Beijing airport there was one death in the past week, maybe, but yeah. So
that's a little hard to buy.
It's a little hard to swallow. Yeah. So
you're worried about an Olympics coming up.
Well, apparently they have a lot of buyer's remorse about the Olympics right now. They're not selling tickets to the general public. They're not letting general public people attend. The Olympics has generally been treated by its host community as the economic engine that's going to transform someplace, and it worked at a few places. It worked in Montreal, it worked in a few other places, but it doesn't generally work. And if you can't invite tourists from around the world to bring buckets full of their currency and leave it in your streets, it's not going to work.
Right.
So,
Good point. Yeah.
Do you remember? I'm going to say 30 years ago, the fear and the trembling that occurred in this country over that economic giant, Japan, that was going to take over the world.
Yep.
I kind of have a similar feeling toward China right now. There's a big difference in that China has more people, and they've been developing their economy a little more carefully than Japan did. But I remember the days thinking, "Oh, Japan's going to own everything." There were songs about it. Levon Helm has a song about it, and about how big Japan was, and how it was just going to crush the rest of us economically. And we've been hearing that for so long about China, that China is this big monster. But our economy, with what do we have? A population of less than a third of China. Our economy is still bigger than China's, and it's much more stable, and it's got a much brighter future in many respects. And if we fix it with making this country sustainable, making it less polluting, we can show the way for the rest of the world how we could be a successful, sustainable, industrialized nation and still allow generations of people to elevate their status. So
Absolutely.
I'm optimistic.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
All right, Greg.
Shall we do we're close enough? Go to break, Dan?
Absolutely. Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do the break.
We'll be back in a few.
Okay, and thank you, Greg Shorvis, Bill Murphy, Billy McKenna, and thank you so much, Kevin Cahill, for being in here today with us. It's now at the bottom of the hour, and you're with us at Kingston Community Radio, KCR at AM 920 and 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. Wednesday, January 26th, and still about 8 degrees here in Uptown Kingston. This last portion of Kingston Community Radio has been brought to you by Central Hudson. We'll be right back after these messages.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone?
Do flowers have best friends?
I don't know. Hey, look.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
She can stand, she can do more, like build a rocket and watch it soar, clean the oceans and make the world a better place. Oh, she can STEM.
Learn more at She Can STEM, a message brought to you by the Ad Council.
My name is Hunter Hayes, and I know my buzzed warning signs. When I know I'm going out, I know I'm going to start with calling for a ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Together with Susan G. Komen, we're committed to reducing U.S. breast cancer deaths by half.
We're going to do it by 2026.
Visit Komen.org/unacceptable.
Hi, my name's Maggie. I'm from Copic, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
You're with us here at Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, WGHQ, and our streaming online at mykcr.org. Don't forget our number, 331-9255, 845-331-9255, to call in and make comments and questions. And because the colors and quality of paint you choose matters, Herzog's Paint and Design Center, located in the Kingston Plaza, is there for you, offering the largest selection of Benjamin Moore paints and the area's most complete line of painting supplies. Herzog's Paint and Design Center also provides color samples from Benjamin Moore paints, including the eco-friendly Aura line. Ready to assist you, color decorating consultants and expert interior designers are there, choosing the right colors and more for your home. Visit Herzog's in the Kingston Plaza, and sales are ongoing at herzogs.com. Let's get back to the on-air studio with our whole team. Greg Shorvis, Bill Murphy, Bill McKenna, Kevin Cahill.
Thank you, Dan. What's that number for calling in again? 331-9255, right?
You got it.
You're right. Let's have
exactly
some callers. And you were mentioning in in your little lead in there for the sponsor of the hour, Aura Paints, and I can walk into my house and I can touch the wall and tell you whether that's one of the ones I did with Aura Paint or not.
No kidding.
Oh, it's absolutely, and it goes on. And I don't want to start making a commercial here for this stuff.
No, that's very, very good.
First of all, it's got no odor to it. It's not one of those things where you go in and you say, "Oh, did somebody spill milk and leave it, in a corner?" It is as smooth as silk, and it covers beautifully. And here's the other thing, and this is probably for a guy like me more important than anything. I bang into things a lot, and I keep a little,
especially early in the morning.
Or
Right?
anytime.
Okay.
And I keep a little jar. And I can just go grab an artist paintbrush and go touch it up, and even if it's a year or 2 or 3, or in my case 10 years later,
it still stays consistent.
It still matches.
It matches.
Yeah, it's beautiful paint.
The Aura line Benjamin Moore paints, and of course Herzog's is our local resource for that, and that's a good thing.
I told my daughters,
thank you.
I told my daughters that if they were painting and they were thinking about buying cheaper paints, just go to Herzog's and put it on my account and pay more for it, because it's so much worth it. Really is.
Cover's better too.
Oh,
a lot of times you could almost you can do one coat and you've got wonderful coverage. So, Kevin, you were talking a little bit earlier about the new governor, and I've had the same experience. Far better communication, that they're working with us. I remember back in September there was an issue, or August. I think it probably had to do with going back to Zoom meetings, and I reached out to the governor's office and made a case. I had senior board members who just did not want to meet in public, and within a week they had it done. Now, I know that it wasn't because I called, but I'm sure she got a number of calls from community leaders. But the point is, she responded, and listened to what our needs were, and
well, she has been responsive, and what you're saying is something I've heard consistently. I've heard it from the people in the county government. I've heard it from people in other towns where they've reached out. I've heard it from the city of Kingston, and quite honestly, my experience with the Wirt Street Bridge was this had been, this sort of thing had been pushed down the path a little bit every single year, and almost within days of Governor Hochul taking office, we had a phone call from the Department of Transportation. We're going to get started on this, and then they came down and just had just done an incredible preparation for it, and I not only was I advised, but the local governments were advised, and we were all aware of what was going to take place, and we were able to prepare our local communities for the dislocation as a result of it, and now the project's going great. But that's just one example. When we call, I have to tell you, I don't want to get comfortable because I'm starting to expect answers.
Right.
It's nice to see that they are on that bridge now, and they've got the infrastructure for rebuilding it and things like that, and the traffic patterns are perfect down there on Beale Street, and the fact is that they've been there 5 days a week.
Well,
work days every day.
When it is done,
even now,
it will be a better bridge than it was when it was built. When it was built, there was a design flaw in it, and the design flaw was because it was never really designed.
Right.
It was a builder said, "I'll build it for you," and after the fact, they brought the blueprints down to an engineer, and the engineer says, "I can fix this. Don't put anything heavy on it."
Oh boy!
Right?
Just what you want to hear.
Right. And then they did some other fixes, so it was able to get up to about 5 tons. But 5 tons is not a very strong bridge. When it's done, it's going to be full capacity, and it will not take a tractor trailer, and that's okay because the neighbors don't really need tractor trailers barreling down Wirt Street.
No, that doesn't work.
And there's a place for them to go, but it will take the trucks that can do local deliveries to businesses, the restaurants and the stores.
And car traffic.
And the car traffic, and it will provide a safe way for people to walk between the two communities, between the Rondout and Esopus and Port Ewan area. I love that walk. I remember before there was a sidewalk on the Esopus side, you kind of took your life in your hands in the little rock cut there on the other side of the bridge. But then they put a sidewalk in, and it made it much safer. But then you still felt that when you went on the bridge that this could be the day this thing goes into the creek.
Still,
It's
I
a little
look up
nerve-wracking.
when I'm on Dock Island. I still look up and say, "Thank God it's still up there."
Well, if you park your car under it for many years, if you notice, for those of you who are going down to Next or going to Ship to Shore or Mariners Harbor, and you park under the bridge, there are nets under the bridge because a couple of cars got damaged by stuff that was hitting it that fell off the bottom. So when this is done, it's going to be a complete reconstruction. No nets, no nets. But you know what they will have? They will have those necklace lighting across the top that can be changed colors, and it will have and it will have for the holidays. I'm thinking that
St. Patty's Day.
St. Patty's. I'm thinking especially St. Patty's Day. But yeah,
I knew you were.
Yeah, and the 4th of July. It can be a light show in addition to whatever else is going on down there. And a nice backdrop for the community.
Hey, I think we have a caller. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Greg, could you pass on to Fred my most heartfelt condolences on the death of his dad and everything else I nobody's going through, been there, done that, and tell him I wish him and his family the best through this difficult time.
Yes, Greg's gone. This is Bill, but I certainly will.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, because I enjoy all you guys on the radio every Wednesday stuff, and Kevin every couple of weeks out of the month, and keep up the good work, Kevin. I know your officers been hearing from me, but hey, that's why our citizens need to stay involved too. So.
Well, you make sure you let us know what we can do, and if we don't do it right fast enough, call us back and yell at us.
Hey, but I tell you what, though, I appreciate the way you guys take care of the veterans, so that's the key.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you for
Have
that.
a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what else is cooking in the great hamlet of Woodstock, in the great village of Woodstock, in the great town of Woodstock?
I guess one of the big things we're working on right now, we have a housing task force. We did institute a moratorium on certain types of development, commercial development, with regard to short-term rentals, motels, and hotels, because we were losing too many affordable rental units, which is a problem all throughout the county. I'm cautiously optimistic. The committee is working diligently with a consultant, and they're going to come back with some really good ideas about how to incentivize the type of development we need, which is lower income rental units.
On a slightly different note, I've been reading and hearing, sort of peripherally, that the club scene in Woodstock is starting to come back. That there's starting to be music venues again, and the thing that when I grew up, that was what Woodstock was famous for. That it's starting to make a comeback.
So back early on, very early in the pandemic, when things were starting after the initial shutdown, but places couldn't really open up inside, I signed an emergency decree and allowed venues to come up with plans, restaurants, venues, and one in particular, the Colony.
Oh my gosh,
they have a beer garden, and interestingly enough, that couple had talked to me 2 years before the pandemic. This was an idea they wanted to have a beer garden out back with some music.
Can I just say that that venue is long overdue?
Oh, absolutely.
It is, and I never would ever think about going out and sitting around any place on a Saturday afternoon, but sitting around in the Colony garden.
You and I have been up there a couple of times together.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
You got to see the mountains.
It's beautiful, and you're right there. It's just a great venue. I know there are a couple of neighbors that are worried about the noise, and I have great faith in our planning board that they're going to come up with a solution that works. I'll also say that the owners, throughout the pandemic, were very responsive. I'd get a call that maybe the music was a little too loud. The band, I'd say, hey, just tweak it down. And they were great about working with everybody on that. Yeah. So, and Bearsville Theater, they're up and doing a lot of things there. I'm very excited.
Levon Help Studios has got a full roster. I tried to get tickets for Ricky Lee Jones, and I couldn't. She's going to be up there in March.
Okay.
And but they have a full roster of shows, but I've heard that some of the other smaller venues are also starting to see some entertainment again.
The Pearl Moon, the Catskill Mountain Pizza once in a while. They'll have, and those are smaller venues with locals, but that gives the locals an opportunity, a place to come out and play. And there's a lot of music going on there.
Well, I think
without a doubt.
I think that it is important. Woodstock has always been changing. If you go back 125 years or so ago, when it was an enclave for painters,
Mm-hmm.
and then poets and musicians started showing up, and then there was a whole wave of time where it became a little more insular, where the people that moved there to get away from it all.
Yes.
And they wanted to be left alone. But every Saturday morning, like clockwork, the New Jersey plates and the Connecticut plates and the metropolitan New York folks would start to show up, and the streets would fill, and then the streets would empty, and the streets would fill, and the streets would empty. I think that there's going to be a new level of community and stability up there. Feeling good about
Instability or
Stability.
Stability. Yeah, I agree. I remember after 9/11, and there was a comprehensive draft that had just come about, and Jeremy was very hesitant to accept this draft because this event had just happened that looked like it could be a total change for the community. That change was short-lived.
Yeah.
Everybody moved up. Everybody went back to the city in 8 and 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
There was the internet wasn't there. All the different facilities were just not there. It's different now.
Yeah.
People can Zoom. People can work from home. The ability, it's there. You also mentioned, 150 years ago. It's interesting because Woodstock, there are times when it's become very much a tourist. If you look at all the old farmhouses that used to take in boarders,
Yes.
and people had come up for the summers.
I saw a movie about that at the Woodstock Film Festival one time. I can't remember what the
I don't remember the name, but that's clicking in my mind too. And it shrinks and it expands. I was talking with Greg earlier before the show how, the business, the venues, they expand and then they die down and then they expand, and it's the new public comes up, and maybe they come because they want quiet, so they want to shut these places down, and then a new group comes in that wants a little bit more life. It's constantly up and down.
And the character of Woodstock, like the character of Sorgetes, like the character of Phoenicia, is unique to the area. I would say of those three communities, Woodstock is the closest to a New England town, but it really isn't. It still has the bohemian local flavor, and of course, Sorgetes is the quintessential river town,
Right.
and Phoenicia is a mountain town.
Right.
But there is something about Woodstock that draws the same sort of vibe that you get from the Berkshires,
Absolutely.
And that reminds me of the next question, and that is, as we go into the next era of marijuana legalization, I've watched Great Barrington and Stockbridge and those communities change pretty dramatically because of it. Have you and the town leaders started to think about what you're going to do so that you don't get overrun with a marijuana wave?
I've started to look into, dealing with it through zoning issues. One of the things that Woodstock is fortunate, and you guys put in the legislation, is it needs to be certain distance from schools and churches and whatnot. So we are dotted with a great number of churches in town that really does naturally restrict the areas. So
You get the same in the village. as
yeah,
well.
probably.
Now, the village authorized it and the town did not?
Correct.
Yeah, that's
We're-
very interesting.
We actually talked yesterday. We're going to set a moratorium and work on the zoning laws, and we want to be able to, certainly don't want any dispensary open up in any place where it could be traffic of children going to school or anything like that. It's got to be the right place for
There's
it.
more to it than just that, and this was hard to relate to with people who have not experienced or seen legalized marijuana on a commercialized basis. But I will tell you my own experience in Cape Cod. 2 years ago, marijuana has been legal in Massachusetts now for 4 years. 2 years ago, there was one dispensary in Waltham. If you wanted to have legal marijuana in Massachusetts on Cape Cod, you had to get it before you went on the Cape.
Right.
Now, the general store in the town that I stay in for a long weekend every year is a marijuana dispensary.
Wow.
The bank on the corner of Route 6 and the road and Commercial Avenue going into town is a marijuana dispensary. Wait, there's more. The Ready Clinic, the urgent center, is a marijuana dispensary. So it has started to have the impact of dominating the landscape.
Right.
And I get it. I mean, if you have no population all year, that doesn't really support a bank, doesn't really support a general store, doesn't really support a Ready Clinic.
It's
and then
a
in the
great way to
summer,
make
you
money.
have 30, 40, 50, 100 times your population. You can make your money in a couple of months if you have the dispensary. But it doesn't help make it a better community.
No.
So it is something that I'm hoping that the communities around here recognize that, yeah, it's going to be quick money, it's going to be easy money for the taxes, but it's also something that can very quickly alter in a very negative way the character of a community, and not the way people think. It's not going to be a bunch of people standing on the street smoking. It's going to be the loss of the core diversity of your community.
Right.
And we're very, I mean, that was kind of my argument with the village. I mean, we didn't opt out because, honestly, in the 9 months leading up to it, the majority of the feedback I got from the community was positive towards it. And,
but you don't want to lose your hardware store.
Right.
You don't want to lose your antique shop. You don't want to lose, your restaurant or your movie theater that you're counting on right now, or your bank.
Nope. And that's why we're going to put a moratorium in place, and we're going to, dictate it. Again, same word to Woodstock. Right in the village alone, you have Boys and Girls Club, you have 2 nursery schools, you have the elementary school, and you have 3 churches, all within, half a mile radius. So based on standard setbacks,
Right.
it's not going to be permissible any place probably right there. And under our new, we're going to. We're going to look at our zoning laws, and we have the ability to expand those setbacks if we choose to do so.
Right.
From 500 feet, we can make it 750 or 1,000 if we want. It's got to be within reason, and we're going to take a long, hard look at it and get input on it. Because, again, I think it's here. We got to deal with it, but I think. And that's why I felt
But it could be a positive. I mean,
positive, and I thought it was important we stayed in, so we had a voice in it, because there are a lot of things that need to be fixed with it.
Right.
The state kind of threw this on us, and my opinion, just say, hey, here it is, it's legal, deal with it.
Right.
You got till December 31st to say you don't want to be in it.
well, the really, really good news about everything in the future of the marijuana industry in New York State is that one of the people that we've placed in charge, the governor has placed in charge, or actually the Senate has placed in charge, is former Senator Jen Metzger, who sits on the statewide board, and she'll be making a lot of determinations. And everybody knows she's very community oriented, and I'm sure she's going to seek a balance and an opportunity for everyone to take into consideration all the things we like to do. But, I remember even going back to previous administrations in Woodstock that you have experienced problems even before Airbnb of people, sitting around saying, hey, let's go up to Woodstock for the weekend and make a weekend-long party.
Yeah.
And just impacting the whole neighborhood.
Absolutely.
And I think the advent of legalized marijuana might encourage a little bit of that we're going to have to watch out for. But listen, all things considered, on balance, what is the benefits are significantly greater than any of these potential problems, and we can deal with the potential problems pretty easily.
And we will need to, but we can. We have the tools that we be able to do that,
and we have the right people to do it too. So,
I was thinking when I first started business in Woodstock, so I was about 21, 22, doing contracting, and I remember one January coming out Rock City Road. I'd been to see my plumber, Billy Heckeroth, and town was empty. I was the only car on the road in the middle of the day. This is a cold January. That doesn't happen anymore now.
No.
I mean, every day, and I think, Murph, you were saying the same thing. We've got people, even during the week in the wintertime,
Crazy.
up and down. And you indicated about more stability. I think we are getting closer to that. Yeah. So
I think I think one of Sergey's biggest draws, the restaurants. I know Woodstock has them too, but it just seems like, every weekend, and even now, starting on Thursday nights, you have trouble getting in restaurants in Sergey's, and we have ample restaurants.
We have restaurants in Kingston where the people don't go just for the food. they go for the people who serve, and they just want to meet that person who's serving, and they consider them special characters. I know one restaurant that I go to with some frequency. There's a great waiter there who is so colorful, and people I think line up just to go see him.
They're all very colorful.
It's like dinner
Yes,
theater.
they are.
I'm talking about our engineer.
Colorful. Oh my God, we've got a spectrum of incredibly colorful people.
You really do. I mean, it is. I read one of the reviews
and,
about
it's happenstance. It's happenstance how you create a crew. How you create a team.
But I read one of the reviews of Le Canard talked about it. Walking off a fair street and walking into Paris, and it's very much like that.
Very, very true. Yes, and we've got restaurants all over creation up here in Ulster County that are similar.
So Bill McKenna's upset that we're talking about Kingston, not Woodstock, so he's just leaving.
Thank you, Bill.
Take care, Bill. But I think there's you're right, Bill. I think the restaurants are one of the big draws. People think to themselves, I want to do X, but they also say, I want to do X and I want to have dinner. I want to do X and I want to have lunch. And and this is an article that's in the Kingston Wire this week about the changing nature of dining in Kingston, and how there's a concern that with the closure of Pie for the People and Boydson's and the changing of hands of Tony's and a few other things that the character is starting to really change. And I think that's true. But also I think it's important that we recognize that just as those restaurants created a character, and in the case of Le Canard,
which will be here for the rest of of known history,
right?
It'll be there.
But it defines not just how you attract people, but who you attract.
It's very, very much the restaurants have a culture that have to do with the people that come.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just as much a part of the experience, the culture of the people that come, as what you have there with service, food, and atmosphere.
Well, I was very sorry to hear
about
clientele. Yeah, I was very sorry to hear about Boydson's making the decision to close, but nobody had tried harder to stay open than Maria did. And I have a feeling we haven't seen the last of Maria in the restaurant business. We probably, I think
that's encouraging. I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear you say that because that's very encouraging.
And we've had some great restaurants in the past that have left us with good memories. The Elephant, the old.
The Elephant was amazing.
Yeah, and then go ahead.
Don't forget what March Gallagher actually mentioned earlier, that a history of the different restaurants.
Past restaurants, yeah.
Yeah, past restaurants of Saugerties and New Paltz and Kingston. That would be an extraordinarily fun and interesting book or research.
It's fascinating when you read about, for example, P&G's in New Paltz. Pat Cafferty, Brian Cafferty is a well-known real estate agent around town, was P. And the history of the development of P&G's was that Mohawk was dry. Pat worked there, and he and George saved up their money from doing liquor runs for the people that were staying in Mohawk, and when they had enough money, they opened up a restaurant. And it's just such a great story.
That is fascinating. That is extraordinary. I think we've created a need for a really, really great book. Maybe we should hit up Steve Blauweiss, because he's always a good researcher on that kind of thing.
And there is actually a book out there that does a little bit of that, but it's specific to one particular restaurateur. And Butch Guido has a book out. Frank Guido has a book out that goes through the history. A significant part of the book is about
that's significant.
His restaurant. Oh, he's had more than two dozen restaurants.
That book sits on my coffee table at home. And
everybody loves
there were
it.
some downtown that don't exist anymore that he ran down in the Rondout.
Yep,
and
all over the place. But I think that the nature of our communities saw, everybody wants to attribute it to COVID, but it was happening simultaneously. It was happening like Boydson's was there 10 years ago. There was no COVID 10 years ago. I think our communities are poised to again have that great feeling of a renaissance that we've experienced in the past.
I think coming out of COVID is going to trigger that too. I mean, I think so many people have been locked down for 2 years that you're seeing it's going to be a wave coming out of COVID too with restaurants. And like in my community, I always say it's funny because like certain restaurants I go to my community, I walk in, I probably know 50% of the people. 50% are out of town. But there's other ones I go into, I don't know a person.
This is an issue.
But I like that though. When I go into a restaurant in Sorgeties, I don't know anybody in there. That means it's out of town people coming to Sorgeties. You know.
That's right. And
I look at it.
you know, we're seeing that with Lake and Ard. I would say on a given Saturday night, for instance, we have 50% regulars.
Yep.
You know, that we know and you know, they're friends, and the other 50% are brand new people.
Yeah. Well, I prefer to go to
Brand
Kingston
new.
a lot because I don't know anybody. Like I went to Stella's last week and they're family friends, and I actually, Stella's was packed, and I literally didn't know a person in there. And It was great because no one, I got to actually have a nice, quiet, peaceful dinner.
Well, we're being kicked out of here, so thank you. Thanks for
Guess
having
we
us.
are.
And
we got to sign off.
Next
now.
week we'll
We
talk
have a
about
minute.
shoemakers.
There we go.
Exactly. And there's a very good point too. You know.
Hey, Montana's shoes, how long they been in Sorgeties?
Right.
What, 100 years?
Oh my God, that's an
See, a minimum of
institution.
once a year.
I go there at least twice a year myself.
Every kid, when I grew up, that's where every kid got their back to shoe schools.
That's right.
That was it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Billy. Murph, thank you. And thank you, Kevin Cahill. And thank you, Greg Shorvis. And thank you, Bill McKenna, for bringing us through a super Wednesday. Wednesday, January 26th, 10 degrees right now here in Uptown Kingston. This last portion of Kingston Community Radio has been brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. And thank you for sharing the morning with us and participating in Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, and our live streaming on mykcr.org. Talk radio at its best. Inspired discussions of, by, and for the community. We invite you to be with us tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., 7 to 9 a.m. And until tomorrow, we wish you every success in growing and developing Kingston and all our neighboring communities. We now return you to Magic 92.5.